everybody. Welcome to another What a Hell of a Way to Die. It's Francis. Happy Thanksgiving. This is probably going to be the only episode we put up this week. I've been out of town for the last 10 days between work and vacation and a lot of different things. So we had a lot of good episodes that were put up, I think. Talked to Marty Pfeiffer. He's a nuclear anthropologist, probably one of the only ones out there. Diving into Davy Crockett, talked to James Stout as well. If you don't know James Stout, he's a conflict journalist, and he was recently over in Kurdistan. So we had those episodes come out. But today, this week, you get just me. We're going to cover some news. We're going to cover some other things. I've got some Reddit posts to take a look at as well. I've been getting more and more into the Army subreddit, and I think it's a lot different in a positive way from the Reddit that I remember 12 years ago, honestly, like probably even more than that. So the first piece that we're going to kind of get into, though, is a bit of a serious one, and I saw this getting kicked around a lot, and a lot of people were having kind of discussions about it, and I feel like a lot of people also were very, very angry about this, and which is understandable. But I also do think that probably do need to kind of take a look into some of these things. So this is from The Hill, and this is a article that says how runaway disability compensation is straining veterans' affairs. The article, and we'll take a look at some of the stuff, but the overall here is that the Veterans Administration and disability compensation is a lot higher than it used to be, a lot higher than it was for Vietnam era vets, Cold War era. First Gulf War, things like that. Obviously, like those Cold War and First Gulf War were not as violent of wars as the 20-year long bullshit that the rest of us went through. A lot of Vietnam veterans, they're up there in age, so Vietnam veterans are dying off. So there's a lot of them who are kind of going away, but it mentions how like VA disability compensation has gone up like $200 billion since 2000 up until now. Now, obviously the big push here is that there was a fucking war going on, but it wasn't as much of a shooty war as some of the prior ones, and maybe people weren't getting injured or wounded as much. And also one thing in this article that was very it kind of threw me off was a little bit, and said veterans who have enlisted since 2010 have some of the highest disability compensation enrollment, even though they were significantly less likely to deploy and face substantially lower risks of injuries while deployed. Now, it does say only 1% who are enlisted were wounded in combat. Obviously, combat wounds are not the only thing that you get disability compensation for. It could be jumping out of airplanes too much and your knees fuck up or your back fucks up because you're constantly carrying 50 pounds of body armor and gear and all of this stuff. And I did 20 years in 2 deployments, about a dozen different countries, and I have no disability. And I'm fine with that. I had PTSD. I haven't managed now, but for the most part, my body is pretty well intact. I mean, for 40 years old, I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing a lot better than a lot of other 40-year-olds. So I can't complain too much. But the last time I met up with some old Army buddies of mine. One of the guys was just like, "Oh, you don't have disability, let me, get with me and we can get that taken care of. We can start getting you some disability." And it's just like, I'm all for bilking the government for money, 100%. But also, I don't know. I just, the idea of being put on disability when I do not in any way feel disabled, just feels I don't know. It's I don't like that label to be put on me. And I know that there's a lot of people, like Joe and Nate both get disability, and Joe and Nate both got fucked up in the war. So like 100%, they should be getting, drawing what they get. And, nowadays we have a lot more things that you can get disability for. You can get disability for PTSD. You can get disability for, tinnitus, all sorts of things. You get the high-pitched squealing in your ear because of because you use the 3M ear protection, and it turns out that shit sucked and nobody liked it. again, I didn't shoot that much, so I didn't have that big of a problem. So there are definitely a lot more things that I feel people should be getting compensated for. One thing though that it is very with disability though is that I feel like for some, and don't fucking yell at me about this because I am speaking just from my own experiences and some of the people that I've known and that I've met, I feel that for some, when you start drawing a paycheck and the government says you can get this paycheck for the rest of your life because of what happened to you in this war, and you lose a leg, absolutely, your leg's not going to grow back. And even if we give you the latest and greatest, C leg or plug-in leg or a leg that makes you even better, you still got your shit fucked up. You still lost a leg. You still lost a part of your body because of war, because of what the government was wanting to do with their nonsense. So I am not trying to say that, that a person who's missing a limb or a person who has something that is persistent and constant, like tinnitus or something along those lines, that they shouldn't be getting it. But as somebody who did suffer a lot from PTSD and who no longer really does because I have mitigated it, I've managed it, it is kind of, it's a mix of, it's been over 10 years and also I know what my triggers are. I know I have earplugs with me at all times. I have either these ones that just kind of go in that just take everything down a little bit, or my Samsung noise canceling earbuds that put them in. They block out a lot of the white noise sound. A lot of, like, if I'm in a big crowd, but if people talk to me, I can still hear them. I've found some very interesting shooting earmuffs that it had a microphone, and if somebody was talking to you, it'd be fine. You could hear them. Because it would pick up the voice and put it through the speakers in the ears. But as soon as a gun was fired on a gun range, as you would do, it would block that sound. So it was kind of an active noise canceling thing. And I thought those were fantastic. But like I said, personally, like if I came back from Iraq in 2010, and I was having problems then, and I started to draw a disability check, would I still be getting that today? 10 plus years later? Would I be wanting to, it's hard to say, hey, guys don't have to give me any more money, so, and I know that there have been, that there have been studies into it, and I don't have any of them right now. Like I said, I'm speaking from my own experience, but for some people, I feel like it can be a thing where like, I don't want the money to go away, so I have to continue to not necessarily get better. And when we're talking about mental health versus physical damage, obviously, a traumatic brain injury is not the same as PTSD, right? Like a traumatic brain injury is a physical damage that happens to your brain. You get hit by an IED, you get rattled really hard, your brain bounces off the inside of your skull and gets really bruised, and suddenly you can't remember things very well. That's not the same as kind of what I went through, which was I'm scared of fireworks and crowds make me freak out because I'm afraid somebody at this Cardinals game has an IED strapped to their chest because my brain doesn't want to, use logic at that time. I don't have those problems anymore. At least not as bad as I used to. Actually, the way that I deal with crowds, not only the earplugs, is watch people's hands. Because if you watch people's hands, you can see that they're not really doing anything. And this is how I take care of, like, anytime I feel like, is this person a threat? Well, what are they doing with their hands? Oh, they're dicking around on their phone. Yeah, that person's not a threat. I'm at a ball game or something. I can look at hands and I can see what everybody is doing. And that eases my brain. And that makes it a lot easier for me to deal with. Especially since, like, I'm trying to wean myself off of alcohol and wean myself off of marijuana. Because those were big crutches for me as well. And I've cut back a lot on the booze. I only have like 1 or 2 drinks a week, if that. And I am cutting back on the weed because it... Talk about something that makes your brain not work, is marijuana. I've always had, I've never been able to properly podcast while stoned. Or even like if I smoked a joint like 4 hours before and then tried to podcast, my brain, I need to sleep for it to reset. Anyway, I'm rambling and I understand that. But I think this article is kind of interesting, and like anything like this, it's not telling the whole story. It's not telling the whole story of, yes, there are people who have these problems that weren't injured or wounded in war. Some people, like I said, get fucked up in training. Some people get fucked up just because, running on asphalt fucking sucks. Like, shin splints are a motherfucker. And if you go to medical and you get the paperwork that says, hey, these problems are happening, I'm getting shin splints, I'm having back problems, I have a slipped disc because I have to wear a rucksack all over the place. Absolutely. Those are like physical damages to you that you should be getting compensated for. And I feel like this article doesn't really give those things a lot of credit of just because you're not injured in a war, just because you're not wounded in war. Wounded and injured are different. The enemy wounds you, you get injured because you slip and fall off of a ladder. But just because you're not wounded in a war doesn't necessarily mean that you're not fucked up for the rest of your life. And yeah, you know what? Also, medical technology is different from 20 years ago than it is now. If you want to talk about technological leaps and bounds in medical technology, in any kind of in patents and things like that, war will always do that, because a war makes it so that you have to do these things to survive. Basically, I remember when I first joined the Army, they always talked about the golden hour, which was the if you get wounded or injured, that first hour of getting care is you have the best chance of survival getting care in that first hour. And that has come down to the platinum 10 minutes. And I don't know if it's changed from there. I don't know if there's like a diamond 5 or something like that. But the platinum 10 was, no, if you can get it within this 10 minutes, you're even better. And that's for things like gunshot wounds, for needing tourniquets, head injuries, things like that. Which obviously, the faster that you can get to somebody, the easier it is to make sure that they're not all messed up from whatever's just happened to them. So all these things have improved, and all these things cost money. And honestly, if the government doesn't want to keep having to pay for veterans getting fucked up, they should stop fucking up veterans. I feel like that's the simple solution, right? Stop doing war. Especially the dumb wars that don't make any sense and didn't help anybody and really just cost a lot of blood and treasure, such as Afghanistan and Iraq. So I'm gonna link this down there. Like I said, a lot of people who read this were kind of upset about it. I try to look at articles like this and read between the lines and see, well, what do they have right and what are they missing? And I do feel like maybe there are probably people who are milking the system, but again, I don't give a shit. Like, milk the system, that's fine, but you should also keep in mind, though, that there are people who, and I've met them. There are people who are doing it and maybe don't want to get better because they're worried that the money spigot is going to turn off, which is 100%, like, absolutely, I understand. Nobody wants the money spigot to turn off, especially when somebody says you're fucked up, we'll give you, $800 a month for the rest of your life. I would love a free $800 a month for the rest of my life. But I also like remembering things and having both legs and things like that. So you take the good with the bad, I suppose. So that's going to be linked down below. Take a read. See what you think. I'm interested to hear what other people have to say about it. All right. So what do we got next? Space Force officer earns a Ranger tab, a first for a Guardian. So, one, I don't respect Rangers at all. Like, it's infantry plus. Congratulations. You went through infantry, but a little bit harder. And I don't say that, like, could I go through it now? No, I'm 40. Could I have gone through it when I was 20? Maybe. I don't think I would have had the mental resiliency to do it, because I don't really give that much of a shit. I certainly didn't back then. I was not a gung-ho kind of, I wasn't the gung-ho infantry guy because I was never infantry, because that shit sounded like it sucked. And I didn't want to do it. I was public affairs. They give you air conditioning. You get to go out and you get to do Army stuff, and then you go back into your nice air-conditioned bee hut and your nice bed and everything, and write a story the next day and drink, Dr. Peppers out of the little mini fridge in your office in Iraq. That's how I rolled. That's how I enjoyed rolling. So I was never a ranger. But a ranger is like a West Pointer, it's like just this weird, it's this, like, you did it, I guess, yes, and I'm sure that you're proud of it, and in a military career kind of way, sure, but I'm not in the military, and if you told me you're an Army Ranger now, who gives a shit? You didn't win the war. Like, win a war, I'll be impressed with you. This is even worse, though. What the fuck is the Space Force doing? Now, if it was me, I would just tell everybody I'm an SF Ranger and not really elaborate further on what the SF stands for. You can get away with somebody thinking like, oh, maybe you're Special Forces. Maybe. Special Forces Ranger, which also doesn't make sense because Ranger is like a step up into becoming Special Forces because, Ranger, again, Infantry plus, and then you've got your SF guys above that. So, but unless it looks like this guy, I'm not really giving a shit. I hope that for the rest of that guy's life, he's called Buzz Lightyear. All right. So now this is the thing that came off of Reddit, and I saw this and I posted I took a screenshot of it and I posted it on Twitter. And, I said, was it issued to us? Yes. Did we wear it? Not really. And a few other people kind of chimed in about it. So this says, did the U.S. troops wear groin protectors during the Iraq and Afghan war? So if you are not familiar with the body armor that we wore in Iraq and Afghanistan, I'll bring one up for you. This is what I wore. This is the IBA, the Interceptor body armor. This was a surge years, kind of mid to late aughts, early teens of the 20s and whatnot. This was fine. And you can see there's a lot of pieces that are on this. So you've got the body armor itself. Now, all the little pouches and stuff like that, that's all stuff that you would put on yourself later. However you felt best to put it on. I can see he's got on the left hand side, there's the IFAK, the first aid kits. There's the front chest has magazine holders, and then a couple of other mag holders. I don't know what that is on the far right hand side. I don't know, but they give you a lot of bullshit. My body armor that I have that all fell off of a truck from the Army. I have like the magazine holders. I have a couple grenade pouches too. Not because I think I'm going to hold grenades, but because they're extra little pockets that you can access. I always had grenade pouches on my body armor when I was overseas, specifically for that reason, because I needed a little place to keep my snacks, and I needed a place to be able to access my snacks very easily. But you'll see a few other things on here as well. And let me go ahead. So this is the improved improved outer tactical vest, I think. This is what I didn't... When I went to Iraq, IOTVs were getting rolled out, but not for us reservists. So this was not something that I got. But you can see that basically between the two, they're fairly similar. Like the ideas of them are similar. The IOTV though has a few other extra things on it. It's got like a ripcord in the back, where if you pull it, the entire body armor kind of just falls off of you, which is great when you're wounded in combat or somebody's trying to drag your heavy ass somewhere and they need to get rid of the body armor quickly. They can pull that and all of it kind of falls away and you can clear it all off. The older stuff, the IBA didn't have that. The IBA was like a vest. You put it on like this, and you put one thing here, like the side with the plate in it, with the ceramic plate went across your chest, and then the other side came across that and velcroed onto it. Then you had all of your like molly, the little loops things that you could hang all of your shit on, and it was fine. I had no problem with wearing it. The IOTV was kind of more of a one that could come up over your head rather than a vest to wear. So there are differences in the way that the body armor is put together, and there are actual improvements to it. It's not just we want a government contract, and we want to design new body armor for you. I will say though, there was some body armor that nobody got, which was the dragon armor. And they called it that because rather than one singular plate in the front and the back, it was scaled like circles. So it looked like dragon scales underneath. That shit was very expensive. And the government was like, yes, this is better, but no, not for that price. So keep in mind, it's always the lowest bidder. And there is a price on your life at some point. So the IBA and the IOTV, main stuff that we wore back when I was still running around doing army stuff. And you can see down at the bottom, there is the groin protector, the dick flap, as most of us referred to it as. But there's also some other things on here. So if you look up at the top of both of these, you can see kind of a collar up there. That collar is something that is built, is snapped into it. And then you have these things on the shoulders, the DAPS, the deltoid auxiliary protection. And then if you were really fucking high speed, they had ones for your legs too that all fucking connected up to each other. So the question is, did we wear all of the body armor? And the answer is maybe. I did not. For numerous reasons. One, it was very uncomfortable to wear all of this stuff. The only time that I was in my full everything, shoulder pads, groin protector, side plates, all of that stuff, was during a patching ceremony where the first ID, and every time I say it, first ID, when the first ID wanted to give us all our combat patches for being in Iraq while the first ID was there. And rather than do a normal thing, because we're on Bagram Air Base, we're Basra, Bagram's Afghanistan. We're on Basra in southern Iraq. They wanted us in full gear, like helmets, everything, all this shit. They had to put all of it on so that a fucking full bird colonel could come by and put a patch on our shoulders. Then we all went back to our bunks, stripped all that shit off, took all of it off, put our normal the combat patches that we wanted. Mine was always a 25th ID. I had a good time with the 25th in Afghanistan. So, immediately got rid of all that shit. Some of the problems with this. So let's start up top. The throat protector. I don't like anything touching my throat. A lot of people are the same way. So this thing, having a thing push up against your throat, like a Kevlar tight t-shirt. No, fuck that. So that came off. No, none of that. The DAPS on the shoulders. You could get up to about here with your arms with those. You couldn't do full arms up. You could get about here. You could do John McCain arms. That's as far as you could go with those. Some people were maybe there were people who were more high speed who could do that. I could not, and neither could a lot of people that I knew. I very, very rarely saw anybody wearing DAPS unless they were on constant patrols out, and even then was not all that much. Sometimes you would get a commander who would insist on everybody wearing their full body armor, their full DAPS and everything. Very rare though. Usually they didn't give a shit because whatever commander you were out, whatever officer you were out with, also didn't have all that bullshit on. So you've got the DAPS. So let's talk plates too. So you've got your front, your back plate, 2 ceramic plates that weigh. I don't know how much they weigh. They're light. They're lighter than steel plates. If you're a person with body armor and you've got steel plates in your shit, one. It's not that great of plate armor, and 2, it's heavier than it needs to be. So spring for the ceramics, or again, like me, find a truck for them to fall off of. But the plates, you have plates front, plates back, but the IBA and the IOTV have side plates too. So you get these plates here on your rib cages, which, hey, makes sense, right? Like if you get shot in the front, sure, you get shot in the back, sure, you've got the plates protecting you, but what if you get shot in the side? So you've got these plates that are protecting you here. Some people wore them, some people did not. I did not. My belief was that if I'm getting shot in the side like that, I fucked up somewhere really bad. And to be honest, like you didn't really get shot in Afghanistan. You got blown up. You got hit with IEDs. You got, IEDs basically. IEDs, rockets, mortars, things like that. And either it was going to be small enough and you'd survive it, regardless, or it was going to be big enough and all the plate in the army wasn't going to save you anyway. So, and it's just added weight. There's just more ceramic plates that get put in there. So, those go. If you're like me, you put your sunflower seeds in there because sunflower seeds don't fit in the grenade pouches. The grenade pouches is for your Rippets and your Copenhagen and what else did we keep in there? The Rippet half cans fit perfectly into into. I saw one guy get Rippet all over himself because he had his shit in Rippet cans like in grenade pouches, and then during incoming fire hits the ground. And, the can just sprayed all over him. It was great. A whole fucking sticky mess. Enjoy taking that back to CIF, man. They're not gonna take that nonsense back. So, the side plates, again, weren't that big of a necessity, I felt. I'm still here. I survived, so whatever. So you keep going down, and then you've got, you can see there's like a butt thing and a front and a groin protector. Now, these, there are different levels of how useful that these protectors were. So I'll go back to the IBA, because this is what I had, and my dick flap, as we call them, the dick flap was just, there was nothing in it. Like, it's just a flappy thing that sat there, and I don't really know. Like, the idea was that if you step on a mine and it blows up, you keep your balls, but not really. Like, it didn't have that feeling, and the same for the back. So one thing about this body armor is that when you're wearing it, it goes down to, if you're wearing it correctly, if you've got it correctly sized, it goes down to about your belly button, and then maybe, like, if you had a tramp stamp, you'd be able to show it off if you were in body armor. That's how low it didn't go. So they were always trying to add, like, well, what if you get shot or you get shrapnel in your lower spine? It's going to paralyze you from the waist down. So we need to add more stuff onto that. So you've got that on there, and then you've got your front thing. And some people wore them. I knew plenty of people who said, well, if I don't want to get my balls blown off. And a lot of other people who said, I don't think that's really an issue that you have to worry about. Like, if shrapnel is coming up that way, your femoral artery is going to get torn up too, and you're going to bleed out in 3 minutes regardless. So there's not that big of a usage of a lot of things. And there are other things too. So in the Kevlar helmets, at one point they gave us a thing to put in the back, so the strap comes down here and it buckles underneath your chin, but there was also straps kind of in the back, and they gave us like a little padded thing to put back there, because what if shrapnel hits you in the back, in the base of the skull? Now you've got this thing to protect the base of your skull. That I did wear just because it made the helmet more comfortable, not necessarily because I thought I was going to survive something. So this all, like, you got to imagine, all of this is every bit here, everything that you have on you is extra ounces that you're putting on your back. Because you have to remember also, if you're going out on a patrol, or if you're going out, even I didn't patrol, but I still went outside of the wire. So at, your M4 or M16, depending on what you had, seven magazines, the full combat load, 210 rounds. If you had a sidearm, if you had a secondary weapon, you had to carry that. You had to carry ammunition for that. If you were carrying literally anything else, like a rucksack with, I'm going to be out for a period of time. A lot of us we're going to be out for a day. You're going to take a Ranger bag, throw a couple of MREs in there. Your water source, you got to have a full Camelback thrown up all on this. Your Kevlar helmet, as I mentioned. So did people wear all of it? Yes. And those are the people who got their backs fucked up for the rest of their lives. I will also say another thing that was really irritating about those dick flaps is that it was incredibly difficult to take a leak in while wearing this whole getup. Now, if you're out on the field, you're doing field operations or whatever, and you're pissing on the side of the Humvee, it's whatever. But if you are on base or you're on a base somewhere and like, okay, we're going to get ready to go out. We're going to leave in 10 minutes. If anybody needs to take a piss, the porta-johns are over there. You were probably going to piss all over yourself with this. The pants already sucked to deal with, and now you can't see. And I don't care like how much you want to brag about how big dicked you are, like with the flap and the body armor and all of the other shit that you're wearing, and just not being in a place that is conducive to have your junk in a nice looking way. And guys, you know what I'm talking about. There's time, coming out of the pool, you got shrinkage. When you're in your full battle gear, like your dick's not, your dick understands what it needs to do, and it's not anything. It's not be presentable. So it's very difficult to see, and it's just fucking sucked. So. No, I did not. I think I wore the dick flap for like maybe about 2 or 3 missions, and then that went, and then, it's the beginning of the deployment, and this is Iraq, Afghanistan. I didn't have any of this shit. Like you had your plate carriers, your front, and your back. I don't remember if it was IBA back then, but I do remember I had the DCU camo uniform, but I had a green BDU colored up top. So if you ever watch Generation Kill, it's the look that they had going on. That's what I had in 2004. It's what you get for being a part-timer, man. You get the cast-offs, and that was 2004. They still hadn't really like plussed up the whole like, oh, maybe we need body armor that like actually blends in. And then they got rid of all of that stuff, and they gave us this universal camouflage pattern, which worked nowhere except for like gravel parking lots and grandma couches. So hopefully that answers your question. I know a couple of people said that they wanted me to get a little bit more in depth about the body armor and our experiences with the body armor. And when it comes to soldiering, all of these things are everybody has a deep kind of I guess I could say they have a deep opinions about a lot of these things that other people, your average civilians or people who aren't in the military aren't going to have, because this is the thing that's supposed to save your life, but like it feels like it's killing you constantly. And that's body armor has gotten better. I don't know if it's going to get lighter, but I do know like exoskeleton suit things are being tested, and maybe in 20 years, we're going to finally all have either the Starship Troopers, the book, not the movie, mobile suits, or Japan is finally going to give us a Gundam, and we're all going to have Gundams, and that's going to be great, and we'll just do Gundam battles, and it'll all be Gundam Wing all day, every day. If that does happen, my Gundam is absolutely going to be in the universal camouflage pattern. I want everybody to see my dumbass coming and trip me up, and so I can just lay there and not participate anymore. Pretty much how I tried to do war usually. It's just like, there's war, I don't want to do any of this. All right, so if any of you guys have any other questions, comments, concerns, or if you want to talk about your experiences with the body armor, put that on down in the YouTube comments, or you can always email Sergeant Joker, hellofawaytodie.com. I do read all of your emails. I do appreciate them. The last time I talked about cooking, and somebody sent me an email with all kinds of potato recipes, because I don't do potatoes because potatoes are very complicated to me because they require like 30 minutes of prep before you can do anything with it. And I do not have the ability to forward think my cooking that way. So I always do appreciate all of the comments and everything that you guys have. So we're going to take a break now, and we'll jump over to our next segment. Okay, so now we're at the segment where I talk a little bit about what I've been watching, reading, things like that. As I said earlier, I've been out for about 10 days. Like I said, I traveled to Texas for work, and then I traveled to Florida for vacation. And so I've had a lot of time on my own at work, because I go to Texas, I get a hotel room to myself. And what do I do? But I sit in the room and watch TV. Mostly what I was watching, I started a rewatch of Community, because it's just something I can put on in the background and pay and ignore, but also watch. I'm a big fan of. I've still always been a big fan of Community. One of my favorite shows. Highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. Don't. It's one of those. Don't think a lot of these jokes could be made today, but a lot of them. A lot of it really does hold up. So. You should watch that. And I am still going through Voyager. See, the thing I love about Voyager, and that like I never really understood the first time I watched it, was that like you could do fucking whatever in the Delta Quadrant. Like in the Alpha Quadrant, there were rules. There were Klingons, and there are Romulans, and there's these guys and those guys, and we have all of these different, these are the things that these are the rules that we have. These are the characters, and then the Delta Quadrant is like, I don't know, somebody fucking stole Neelix's lungs. Fuck them. And I'm into it. I'm all about it. So I'm really enjoying going through and the whole what the fuck. And Janeway is fantastic. I love Janeway. I never really appreciated her as a captain before, but after so much Picard and Sisko, who are very hard faced, and they have to be hard because they're on these Sisko on the border of on the literal frontier, and Picard, bombing around space doing Star Trek stuff. But Janeway is the only one that like ever actually smiles on a regular basis, and I'm sure that it's because it's the 90s and it's the whole smile, sweetie, and women have to be a certain way. But honestly, I think it makes her a really great captain, that she has compassion. She has so much compassion, immediately compassion. The last episode that I watched was the one where they were sending messages to a Romulan science vessel through a wormhole that they found. And just her demeanor and her just the hope that she has, and the resignation, and even when it's like, oh, everything went south and we didn't get what we wanted, she's still just like, you know what, that's fine, we keep moving forward. So I love Janeway. I'm a big fan. Still not beating out Sisko for me, but Deep Space Nine always is going to hold a little special place in my heart. But so recently, what I have watched was Rambo: First Blood. I've seen it before. Nate and I did an episode on it way back. We've done episodes on all of the Rambo movies. And I've just kind of forgot how much I love the first movie. I did not watch it when I was a kid. I did not watch Rambo: First Blood until I was, I don't know, probably about 3 years ago, whenever it was that Nate and I watched it. So 4 or 5 years ago or so. It's a great movie. I recommend going back to watching it. Rambo fucks up a lot of cops. Because cops are huge dickheads to him. All of it could have been avoided. Rambo could have been gone about his day if they'd just been like, hey man, do you need a place to eat? Cool, let's get you something to eat. Do you need to go somewhere? Cool, we'll help you. We'll help you along your way. Or if somebody's just been like, hey man, are you okay? You seem to be kind of fucked up because you're a Vietnam vet and you have terrible PTSD. And First Blood is radically different than all the other movies, obviously, and it's also very different from the book, which I also highly recommend. I read the book before we watched the movie because I wanted to say, well, I read the book first, but also I wanted to see kind of what it's based on, and it's a fantastic book. It's a very simple book. Like it's very a lot easier to kind of go through. It's not, the movie is very simple. It's very action oriented in the movie, and same thing in the book. Something that they don't go into is that the sheriff that's going after Rambo is a Korean War vet himself. So they're like, there's just this crossing of veteran pathways and whatnot. So you should watch that. All the Rambo movies are on Paramount now. Paramount used to have just the Stars Network, and you had to pay extra for it. And now, like, they're all kind of all the streaming services are collapsing in on each other, which is very nice because they're realizing, Showtime's like, nobody wants to watch our bullshit and pay $15 a month for new Dexter. Nobody wants that. But they combine with that. The same thing, HBO and Discovery kind of, which was a weird merger, I felt. HBO, where I go to watch Deadwood and Oz and things like that. And now I can watch Guy's Grocery Games, which is also a fantastic show. I love Guy Fieri. So having all of that in one space is very nice. It's nice that they're kind of pushing all of them back to each other. Disney and Hulu, same thing. Bundle all that shit together. Amazon's still its own outlier, but I don't really know. I'm curious how long Amazon's got. I mean, they're gonna do another Lord of the Rings season, I think. And I don't really know anybody who watched the first one. Like, I watched a couple of episodes, and I did like House of Dragon over on HBO. So I'm looking forward to some more of that if that's gonna come back. But the Lord of the Rings thing, I didn't really go for that. But you know, Bezos has got more money than God, so he's gonna do whatever the fuck he wants because we just allow billionaires to do that. But I do want to kind of talk a little bit about the Rambo movies. And I know a lot of people kind of talk about. I know who Kill James Bond talked about all the Rambo movies. I have watched them all, and I have talked about this before. I've always wanted to kind of write an in-depth thing about this because the Rambo movies are all like, there's 5 of them and they're broken up. I break them up. You've got your Rambo First Blood, which is the true Rambo, guy, small being PTSD vet. If you guys didn't fuck with me, it wouldn't have happened like this. If you had just been nice, if you had not been a dickhead to me. Which he even sees like everybody's a dickhead. And then Rambo's got a whole breakdown scene at the end where Troutman kind of corners him in the sheriff's office. And Rambo is just screaming about like, I got, my buddy got, the shoe shine boy, and the shoe shine, flips it open and then he blows him up. And my buddy's like, Johnny, where are you? I want to go home and drive my Cadillac. And it's like, but I can't find your legs, man. I can't find your legs. Very, very touching, but also kind of funny a little bit. For First Blood, then you've got your 80s action camp, which is Rambo 2 and 3. Rambo 3 is where he drives a tank into a helicopter, and it's phenomenal. I think 2 is when he shoots a guy. 2 is where he shoots the Vietnamese commander with an exploding arrow and blows him up. 3 is the driving a tank into it's the brave Mujahideen fighter one, which not a real, didn't really happen. That wasn't a real screen title, but we still love it. But yeah, drives a tank, ramps the tank into a hind or whatever. And then you've got your post 9/11 gore porn, and action films have this weird, like, the 80s camp was great, but then there was like nothing in the 90s, right? Like when I should have looked it up when all these movies came out. I think Rambo 3 might have been a 90s, like early 90s. But man, 9/11 really did a number on action movies. It made them not as fun, I suppose. Like, the 80s were, you had Commando, you had all the Arnold movies, Predator, you had Aliens, you had all these great like fun action. There were a lot of excitement, a lot of things happening, but and a shitload of Wilhelm screams. And then you go into post 9/11 and it's just weird gore porn, which still not bad. Like Rambo, the fourth Rambo, the only thing I really remember from the fourth Rambo is he shoots a guy point blank in the head with a 50 cal. And Rambo Last Blood, I went and saw that shit in theaters, and I absolutely loved that movie. It's got old Stallone being old Stallone. It's got a man who just wants to build some tunnels, and that's what he does. He builds a bunch of tunnels. He's got a forge underneath for some reason, and then he has an adoptive daughter that he lets have a rave in his underground tunnels. So. And then he, at the end of it, spoiler alert, this movie's been out for a while, but obviously Rambo wins in the end, but the way he wins is just like, I want you to feel how it felt, like I got my heart cut up. You felt like you tore my heart out when this happened. So he fucking tears the guy's heart out and shows it to him. Very Temple of Doom, Kali Ma kind of thing. So I enjoy the Rambo movies for what they are, but I do like that Stallone has kind of bridged all of these from 1982 up until when Last Blood came out, which was, I don't know, 2019, 2020, I'm not sure, but fairly recently in the last 5 years, and how action movies have changed and how they changed with John Rambo. So I recommend you watch all of them. Absolutely. I will be watching all of them myself. I finished off the first one. I like to put on movies in the background while I'm working. So Rambo 2 is going to be the next one that I put on. And like I said, they're all on Paramount. Well, I know the first 3 are. I don't know about all the rest of them, but go watch some Rambo. Okay, and for what I am reading right now, this is Life on the Mississippi by Rinker Buck. This is a nonfiction book. Rinker Buck wrote another book about the Oregon Trail, where he does not just go into, like, here's the history of the Oregon Trail, here's what they did, what they didn't do, how it worked. He actually then, like, builds a wagon and does a wagon train to Oregon in the best way that he can in, the situations that we have here and I think he did this one back in the 20-teens of some kind. So, not exactly the same, but, kind of trying to experience the same thing. So this one, Life on the Mississippi, as a St. Louisan, I love the Mississippi River. It's right out. It's always been kind of in my backyard. This is about a period of time in American history that does not really get talked about a whole lot, and that I have been fascinated to learn about, which is the flatboat time. So during the treks out west, Manifest Destiny, all of that great and wonderful genocide that our predecessors did. There was, how do you get from one place to another? It was woodland, it was trees, it wasn't all cut down and, having highways and streets that we do now. And in fact, during our fledgling time as a country, there weren't roads going to the west because people weren't necessarily going to the west yet. So how do you get from point A to point B? Rivers was the big one. And in the late 1700s, first guy kind of figured out, like, hey, I can get down to the French area if I build a boat here on what is now the Ohio River and float my happy ass on down there with all of my stuff. It was a journey that would take a couple of months, but it was a lot easier to sit and float down a river and kind of pull your way around, deadfalls and all of the trappings of of rivers at the time. And get there, and then you could, sell everything that you brought, break down the boat, sell all of the lumber, and then, go back and do it all over again. So there was a boom time in the late 1700s up until, kind of post-Civil War, but really up to the Civil War, and then the Civil War changed a lot of things. But during that, and river flatboating was happening until the very early 1900s, according to the book, as far as that I've read into it. So, but flatboats was that's how you did economy. If you were a young man in the early 1800s, you probably worked on a flatboat. Abe Lincoln worked on a flatboat for a while. It was one of the many jobs he had before he was a senator and a lawyer and a president and all that. So this is a very fun and interesting book. Rinker Buck is he's a very good way of writing as well. And then he built a flatboat and he journeys on down the river, the current river that we have. Now, of course, the Mississippi River and everything that we know, the river today is not the river that it was. The river today is, rivers move. They change banks. Islands appear and disappear. That doesn't happen anymore. Because there's so much commerce still on the river. Like St. Louis is a huge river town. We have a lot of commerce that comes on both Missouri and the Illinois side, and all the way on down. Like any town that is next to a river has some sort of river economy happening. And the Corps of Engineers and the federal government and all of these, the Coast Guard, there's coasties on the rivers as well. All of these people, they keep the river in a very specific way. Up north, there's a lot of locks and dams to kind of stair-step your way down or up the river without having to deal with rapids. Here in St. Louis, there's actually there's a very kind of shallow area of the river, but there's a channel off to the side that has been dredged, and that's where you go if you're a shipping container. You do locks, you go through the lock and dam that way. There's here, if you're ever in St. Louis and you find yourself, bored with St. Louis things, the Melvin Price Lock and Dam, it's over on the Illinois side. It's on both sides. You can be on either side of it, but on the Illinois side, and it's kind of north of St. Louis, closer to Alton, Illinois, they have, you can tour the lock and dam. During COVID, they kind of had it shut down, and, because terror alerts and all this stuff, sometimes they're not doing it, but you can now take a tour of it. They take you up on the lock, And if you're lucky, you get to watch traffic go through. And they have a great museum there that talks about the history of locks and dams, and the ecology, the animals that live there. And they also have a barge simulator, which is great. If you've ever wanted to know what it's like to float a barge through, it's not easy, as it turns out. I run into the wall a lot, mostly because I'm very impatient. I played too much Call of Duty in my days, and I'm expecting things to be fast-paced. And so, gently taking my barge of coal or corn or whatever and putting it into the thing and then waiting for the rivers to rise or fall through the lock and dam. No, I just run into stuff. So personally, I don't know if I could do it, but there is when I was younger, I wanted to be I wanted to be on a tugboat. I wanted to do some of those things. It didn't work out because it's back then, everybody was floating down, so it was not hard to be yeah, I'll join on to your crew and I'll come on down here. And I don't really know why they don't talk about it too much in American history today. Probably because there's not a lot of flatboats that survived, and not because they were put together shitty, but because when you got down to wherever you were stopping and you were unloading everything, you sold all of your cattle, you sold all of the grain or whatever, and then in the end you sold off the flatboat itself. You broke it down into pieces and sold all the lumber off. So it's a very interesting book. I recommend it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm about a quarter of the way through it. So if you're looking for some nonfiction to read, but that isn't super heavy nonfiction, and to learn a little bit about American history, history that you don't learn in school, and that there's not really a whole lot of discussion about. I recommend this. And Brinker Buck's earlier book about the Oregon Trail, I recommend that one as well. Like I said, he's a very good writer, and it's interesting to not just have somebody say here's the history, here's all the research that I've done. I've read all of these, diaries and books from the 1800s, but also he put together a flatboat and then floated his happy ass on down the Ohio River and down the Mississippi to New Orleans. So it's a really great story, and I recommend you reading it. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As we go on, you can see the halo getting bigger. I'm actually recording this during the day rather than the night, so the sunlight is coming through my windows, and you can see I get nice daylight here in the old pod shack. But it kind of blows me out a little bit, or it makes me look a little holier. And as somebody raised Catholic, I'm not going to say no to that. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I wanted to update a few things from the store here. If you, I believe I talked about this before, and I've also posted about it on Twitter, but if you are not somebody who's on Twitter, congratulations. I wish I had your brain, that is not poisoned by all of it. But, I have these new Carlton Gustav Penny Farthing Ops, patches and stickers, and the patches are a little different than normal. Rather than do the Velcro back, I'm experimenting with adhesive backed. So these are much like a sticker. They can stick onto any, surface, and I wanted to kind of put them through the ringers myself. So this is it on my water bottle that I took with me when I went traveling for work and for vacation. Held up great. If you want to put this on something that is cloth, though, say a jacket or your own body armor or whatever, hit it with the iron when you put it on there too. Kind of melt it in there. But also, like anything with any of these patches that are iron-on or things like that, highly recommend putting a little bit of a thread through it as well. Just to make sure that it stays on. But I love it. I think it's working great. It's still here on my water bottle. It's not going anywhere. With all my other fun little stickers, some from the store, some not. I got my Bear Aware one there, and my Keep Calm and Carrion stickers. If you don't want to pick one up, but you do, if you're a part of the $10 level of the Patreon, you're going to get a patch and a sticker of these in the mail as well. Those are going to be going out beginning of December. You're going to get those before Christmas. And one thing that is going to only be in there, only in Patreon subscribers, the $10 and up are going to get, is this Santa Claus sticker. Santa Claus and his happy elf, and a very festive Davy Crockett in the back of the sled. Look, he's no longer delivering coal. He's going to deliver Trinite via melting you with some nuclear devastation there. So, like I said, this is only going to be in the care packages that are going out. Maybe, next year when I'm cleaning stuff out and I'm doing my random grab bags, you might be able to get one in there. But for right now, it's only the $10 level of the Patreon. You need to sign up before the end of November. Sign up before December 1st, and these will come out. You'll get one of these. You'll get the penny farthing ops patch and sticker as well, and probably something else. I'll throw something else in there. I got a lot of things that are just kind of floating around. So if you've ever been wondering what else can you get from us here at What a Hell of a Way to Die, it is a regular care package 3 or 4 times a year of some things that you're going to get before everybody else does, some things you're going to get that nobody else does. One of them that I sent out, I gave everybody one of the medals that we all got, the GWAT, the GWAT E, I think, the Global War on Terror medal, expeditionary, because we all dealt with that war, right? So we all deserve a little bit of valor. Still got a handful of those left too. So those, if you pick up some of the those what am I thinking? The care, not the care. Oh, brain, come on, work. If you pick. So those are going to be available in the random grab bags that I have. I just always have some of those, and I will have patches and stickers and things like that are left over that I don't necessarily have in the store anymore, and I'm not going to order more of anytime soon. So those are always those kind of come out too. But if you want one in time for the holidays to impress your friends and confuse your family, get on to that now before the end of December. So, as always, thank you, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope that you get your 4-day. For those of you who have to work, I'm sorry. I wish everybody could take 4 days off. Fuck it, grind the economy to a halt. Go on strike. 4-day holiday strike for everybody on Thanksgiving. There's nothing that we need. It's, if you didn't buy all of your shit by now, if you didn't get all of your stuff, and we're kind of done with Black Friday, right? Like, I know Black Friday sales still happen, but like nobody lines up outside of Walmart at 5 o'clock in the morning anymore. But there are Black Friday sales. I will not be doing one. You're going to pay me full price, or as always, you can take 10% off with the code word technical, which is always in play. And you can use it as many times as you want, because who doesn't fucking love a technical and 10% off? So everybody, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next week.